Lord, you moved upon men to establish this great nation. You stirred men to hope and to dream for a land of freedom. We praise you for this great nation. Lord, you inspired many of our best and brightest to volunteer to proudly stand and defend our beloved country. You've given us brave and loyal men and women who have steadfastly served in the chosen branches of military. We gather today to remember our military personnel. We acknowledge that their service enabled us to walk as free men and women in this great land. Lord, today we seek to honor our sons and daughters who have served or who are serving in our country. We're reminded that because of their service, we may live in safety. We ask that you abundantly bless those who have previously served. May their service time be rewarded in every way. May they gain earthly and heavenly blessings from their unselfish love of country. Lord, we stop now and remember those who are currently serving. We ask that you provide them with your protection, your strength, and your peace. We ask that you would abundantly provide for their needs. We ask that you would enable them to overcome every personal and professional obstacle. We ask that also you protect their families from hurt and harm. May each of our veterans feel honored, not just today, but every day. Father, we give special recognition to our wounded warriors. We realize that many of our heroes are dealing with physical and emotional wounds that occurred as a result of their time of service to our country. We ask that you would give them the best treatments available, and that you would add your supernatural blessings to all the efforts given to them to help them. We ask that you, Lord, would show them miracles as they seek to gain their health, their stability, and their wholeness. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
I'm going to read a prayer that was written by one of the soldiers in the trenches. He was in the Gloucester Regiment, the same regiment my great-grandfather served in. My great-grandfather was not Catholic, entering into the First World War, but he was asked to be an aide to a Catholic chaplain in the trenches. My great-grandfather survived, and after the war, he became Catholic. I have his rosary that he used in the trenches in France in the First World War. This prayer was written by a soldier in the same regiment as my great-grandfather, Cyril Winterbotham. He was a young lawyer who enlisted to join and fight in the Great War, the war to end all wars. And he wrote this prayer on Christmas Day, 1915. The year before, 1940, the first Christmas of the war, a truce was agreed. And on Christmas Day, the soldiers from both sides fought and played a game of soccer in no man's land between the two trenches. And that truce was ended, never to be repeated until the war was finally over. And this prayer was written by this officer, Cyril Winterbotham, who would not survive to see the end of the war. He died August 27, 1916. He wrote this on Christmas Day, 1915. Not yet for us may Christmas bring goodwill to men and peace. In our dark sky no angels sing. Not yet the great release for men when war shall cease. So must the guns our carols make, our gifts must bullets be. For us no Christmas bells shall wake, its ruined homes shall see no Christmas revelry. In hardened hearts we fain would greet the babe at Christmas born. But lo, he comes with pierced feet, wearing a crown of thorns, his side a spear has torn. For tired eyes are all to dim, our hearts too full of pain, our ears too deaf to hear the hymn which angels sing in vain, the Christ is born again. O Jesus, pitiful, draw near, that even we may see the little child who knew no fear. Thus would we picture thee, unmarred by agony. O death and pain, triumphant yet, bid thou thy harpers play, that we may hear them, and forget sorrow and all dismay, and welcome you to stay with us on Christmas Day. Amen.
Mrs. Levinson, would you bring the girls forward to the Pledge of Allegiance? All veterans, with or without caps, may render the hand salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Howard Fredrics first participated at our 9/11 ceremony, and she was a big hit, and we invited her back. She's related. She's the wife of our PKRG, Mr. Fredrics' wife, and she has a rich background. She's been all over the country and in Europe, and she's going to perform. And you're really going to appreciate the quality and talent that this young lady has.
I'm a patriotic lady, I'm a dead square honest Yankee, and I'm mighty proud of that old flag that flies from Uncle Sam. Though I don't believe in raining, every time I see it waving, there's a chill runs up my back that makes me glad of what I am. Red, white, and blue, hats off to you, on this to a grand old flag. You're a grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag, and forever in peace may you wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true neath the red, white, and blue, where there's never a loss or grand. But should old acquaintance be forgot, keep your eye on the grand old, eye on the grand old flag.
Why are we here today? Today marks the 100th anniversary of the end of the Great War, now known as World War I. Up until that time, it was the bloodiest war ever conducted by mankind. In 4 years and 4 months of slaughter, mostly on the Western Front, Belgium and France, but in other parts of the world, 10 million, as the historians said, 10 million men, a generation, died in the trenches, on the land and in the air, to end the wars that President Wilson had predicted, that war would be the end of all wars. Well, that unfortunately never took place. Another 18 million were wounded, and we had about 3 million civilians who died from various reasons. None of us were there at that time. I'm sure none of us were here. We joke about it, but the last American soldier who died was Mr. Buckle about 8 years ago. He was 110 years old. Now, what did America contribute? She was a nascent power coming to the forefront. We declared war in April of 1917. Today, 16 months later, the armistice was signed. We lost in totality of troops. We lost 103,000 men. 53,000 in combat, 50,000 from the Spanish flu, which was a misnomer because the Spanish flu, which killed another 8 million people throughout the world, started in a army camp, a training base in Kansas. We also had 115,000 young Americans who were wounded. Park Ridge, at that time, only had several thousand residents, but 56 went off to the war, and 5 gave their lives. 1 from sickness and 4 from being killed in action. This is a quintessential day in the history of our country and this area. Now next year, coincidentally, we will be observing the 100th anniversary of the founding of the post, 153. At that time, it was known as the Pascack Valley Memorial Post, 153. 50 years later, it was changed to the present name in honor of Corporal Jesse Barker, who was awarded the Medal of Honor after being killed in action in Vietnam in 1967. So we want to thank you for being here today, the young people, because when we're gone, we hope that the young people here today, that their parents and teachers will inculcate into them the necessity to remember what the servicemen and women have done. There's nothing in the world that we can ever repay these men and women who have served from the Revolutionary War up to the present war on terror. And we have a fine group of men and women serving presently in the armed forces. And as I said, we can never repay them for what they have done. Okay. There's a gentleman here, he's been a member of our folks for a number of years, Kazuo Yamaguchi. He lives in Montville. He celebrates this year his 94th birthday. Now, why do I mention him specifically? He was a member of one of the most famous combat units in World War II. It was the Nisi, the second generation Japanese Americans, who, while some of their relatives were being interned, they stepped forward because they were Americans and they wanted to fight and save our democracy. He was a member of the 100th Battalion of the 442nd Infantry Regiment. This was the most highly decorated regiment in the Army during World War II. They had 3 members of the service be awarded the Medal of Honor, and they had more decoration for bravery given out. And these were men whose parents and some children were in holding camps because of misappropriation, of that they were not loyal. They were as loyal as any American citizen has ever been. And I want to say that we're proud to have Mr. Yamaguchi, a member of our post, and what he did. And I will end by saying that we owe the veterans a debt that can never be repaid. And I'm talking about veteran to veteran. I want to say thank you for you coming out today, and we afterwards we have a display of World War I posters, and there will be refreshments.
Okay, we'll continue with the service here. On this day, Veterans Day, we are commemorating the service of all veterans of all wars. We remember how men and women set aside their civilian pursuits to serve their nation's cause, defending the freedom of men and preserving our precious American heritage. We believe our strength on the field of battle and the supply lines in which we nourished and armed might lay in the justice of our cause against the force of evil. We believe that our determinations made us better warriors because we fought with our minds and our hearts, as well as our bodies. We recognize the service of our country and her does not end with the termination of the military service. We continue to endeavor in behalf of our honorable war peace with the feeling of profound gratitude to God and to the men and women who gave their lives as their part of their host of the noblest of cause. Out of blood and sweat, we've learned of purpose, sacrifice, tolerance, and bravery and discipline. These are solid foundation stones upon which our great nation is built. In our continuing quest for an honorable world peace, we must cultivate these virtues.
Waging of war involves more than just the combatants who fight to the death on the field of battle. The fighting forces begin at the fireside and in the home towns. The repercussions of war's terrible brutality have chilled the heart and dimmed the hopes and dreams of many a loved one left behind on the home front. While the horrors of the battlefield may not have been our experience, we have lived with the terrifying loneliness created to answer an aggressor's challenge. In waging war, we have moved forward with a unity of purpose which made us strong, forgetting pettiness, egotism, and pride. Our hearts beat in tune with those in other nations fighting for freedom and the dignity and opportunity of man. In our constant quest for an honorable world peace, there is need for unity of purpose if we truly are to move forward toward a brighter day.
If there be glory in war, it is almost incredible spirit which it engenders. Those who offered their lives, sacrificed their all, and magnificent men. Heroism becomes contagious. Yet too, in warfare, greed and brutality are epidemic. Too often it is these latter which persist in the peace that follow. Let us strive to see that the same spirit of self-sacrifice is cultivated in peace as it has been exhibited in war. It behooves us to rear the new standards of success, to inspire youth in peace as youth was inspired in war. Public honor must be given where public honor is due, not in the manipulator of a market, the seeker after profit, power, or position, but rather let us honor the heroes of science who alleviate human suffering and carry to greater heights the standards of civilization. Let us honor those who in public service seek not how much they may secure from the nation, but how much they can give. Let us honor those who devote their lives to that education which will lead our children on to live and laugh and learn and love, as we have only dreamed of doing. Let us honor those veterans who carry into ordinary affairs of life a noble idealism and sincere capacity for self-devotion. Let us translate the devotion of war into a devotion of peace. Let us will to live as well as die for our country.
The hurts of war fall alike upon those who wear the same uniform, no matter how they may differ in race, creed, or culture. Those who fight together suffer together to achieve a common aim. In the similarity of battle dress, there is a common denominator, a common purpose, the sharing of danger and suffering, which brings in time of war a tolerance which adds strength to the cause. As we put aside the brown and blue and green fabrics that made us one people on the battlefields, we can hold in our minds that tolerance we have achieved. In tolerance there is progress, progress towards a better and happier.
Courage is one of the virtues born of war. The courage of individuals in the face of danger, and the courage of nations to protect the weak and punish the aggressor. There is bravery to be shown in peace as well. We may recapture the courage which turned the wilderness into cities, that bound men together under government. We can turn slums into comfortable homes, turn uncertainty into certainty. We can reach new heights of civilization and opportunity for the men and women of this nation if we have the courage to expect and work for a better way of life. There can be romance in this challenge also. The bravery that fights for political, social, economic, and spiritual gains may be more difficult to practice, may be unsung when achieved, but it is all the more worth striving for.
War has taught us the lesson of obedience to command. The game is more than a player, the ship is more than a crew. There is a greater discipline we must now pursue if we are to preserve the virtue of obedience in our quest for an honorable world peace. That is obedience to the laws we, ourselves, make the voluntary discipline of citizenship. Under our system of government, we may change the laws by majority rule. We may pursue our neighbors to our theories of new courses. We may advocate in free elections the choice of veterans or plans. As good citizens, we follow the choice of a majority, whether that choice be his or not. This is the virtue of discipline which must be ours in peace. This is the lesson we must learn at home, in school, on the playing fields, in the organizations, in the community, the party, and the nation. It is the lesson of voluntary obedience to the decisions of the majority. We must not be undermindful either of the conclusions of other peoples with whom we have joined in a quest for an honorable world peace. This is the higher order of disciplines.
In time of peace, we can use the involving virtues of war and put behind us its unnecessary and suffering. In peace, we shall forward together to scale new heights and achievements in unity of purpose and sacrifice for a common good and tolerance for those of different faiths and creeds, and the bravery to fight for social and economic gains. And in the discipline of good citizenship, we shall move forward in the sight of God as a strong nation in a peaceful world. I'd like to introduce Councilwoman Kelly. Epstein.
Good morning. I'm here actually on behalf of Mayor Mishagna. He sends his apologies for not being able to make it today. He had a family commitment and wasn't able to get out of it. So I am here today to say a few words to echo a lot of the sentiments that have already been said today. Today has been set aside as a celebration to honor America's veterans for their patriotism, their love of country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good. When President Dwight D. Eisenhower established Veterans Day as a national holiday, he commented that there are two reasons we need to establish this day. One, of course, is to honor our veterans, and two is to understand the historical importance of this day. Personally, as a history teacher, I can speak well to the latter. If you would allow me a moment, I'd like to provide a little bit of history. Exactly 100 years ago today, November 11th at 11 a.m., an armistice was signed to end what they called the Great War. It was supposed to be the war to end all wars. And exactly 1 year after it was signed, we commemorated this day as Armistice Day. In 1938, it was officially recognized as Armistice Day. For many years, it continued to serve that purpose until we quickly realized that the Great War was in fact not the war to end all wars. It was instead a war that would only be the beginning of international conflicts that still continue to this day. The need to change this day from a commemoration of one particular event became one to commemorate all those who served in the United States Armed Forces as wars continued to be fought. After the U.S. mobilized for World War II and sent an even larger amount of troops into conflict, followed by the Korean conflict, there was a larger demand to make this day about veterans of all wars. And in 1954, President Eisenhower changed the word armistice to veteran, and it has been established as a national holiday in some form ever since. While I know that many of us honor our troops every day and thank them for our service, this day especially reminds us of what our troops have committed themselves to. They have made the commitment to give their life, the ultimate sacrifice if necessary, so that you and I can be in a free country. I am humbled by their service and thank every one of those that served and have served for this great nation. And finally, a special recognition to the members of the Park Ridge community that gave their lives to the defense of our country in World War I. It has been 100 years since their sacrifice, and we continue to honor them each and every day as a way to remember the significance of that sacrifice. This day was created for them and for all those that have followed after. I want to thank you to the American Legion for hosting this event today, and thank you for inviting the mayor and councilors.
Thank you, Councilwoman. We have another representative from the town, retiring this coming December after 7 great years. I've worked with a lot of council persons over the years in providing help for supporting our activities. But I've never met anyone who's done more than the next speaker. And that's Robert Oakville, our council person. He's a Navy veteran of the Vietnam War.
During the 7 years we've had the Memorial Day event, 9/11, everybody, they don't just fall together. There's a lot of work. Dick always does this. I'm going to steal the event. But all you veterans, raise your hand, please. Two of my brothers were veterans. One of World War II, and one in Korea. And, I was a Navy vet. Never saw combat. I was very lucky. I spent 2 years on a destroyer up and down the East Coast, shooting guns, unfortunately not at anybody. So I thank the Legion for their support over the years that I was a councilman, and I wish you much success.
Howard Fredrics.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country love, and mercy more than life. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy God with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
So from the county, I just want to say to all the veterans, thank you for what you do. We recognize veterans in the county. We've made it easier for veterans to utilize veteran services at Bergen Regional with the new Newbridge Medical Center. You don't always have to take that trip down to the East Orange now anymore. So get in touch with your coordinators. This is a plan that we had. It's the least we can do for all the veterans here today. So that's all I want to say. Please, there's more help out there for veterans. Bergen County recognizes you all, and we thank you all. Thank you very much.
Right now, I'm going to read the Park Ridge young men who died in World War I. Okay. First is Edward Abram, Martin Castellani, Lester McGinnis, Frederick Weisner, and Charles Stalter.
This time, our second Vice Commander, Tom Madrew, will place a gold-tipped flag on in honor of each of these 5 men.
Okay, the auxiliary now is going to place a wreath. The wreaths were done by Ann Whitney. Does a great job every year. I mean, Margie. Sorry. Margie Bear does them every year. Next, we're going to have the SAL bring a flag up by our Scott. Now we're going to have our commander present the Legionnaires, presented by Joe Collard. man was given us by the police. And I don't know your name, I'm sorry. Jonathan. Okay. Thank you very much. And you know our trumpet player, he's the best. Let's start everybody go, Jonathan.
Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans, white we fall. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
We have the benediction.
For a prayer for benediction, I'd like to read a prayer that was read in all the churches on the first Sunday after the armistice, November 11th, 1918. That day was a Monday, November 11th. The next Sunday, November 17th, this prayer was read in all churches. We give thee thanks, O Lord, Father Almighty, eternal God, for all those thy servants who waxed valiant in fight and wrought righteousness, and counting not their life dear unto themselves, laid it down for their friends. We pray thee that, having fought a good fight and finished their course with joy, they may rejoice evermore with all them that have come out of the great tribulation, and having washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb, stand before your throne and serve thee day and night forever. Remember, O Lord, what thou hast wrought in us, and not what we deserve. And as thou hast called us to thy service, make us worthy of our calling. Through Christ our Lord.
Amen. And right now we're going to retire the colors.
Attention.
And salute.